Probably the equivalent of what Kent State was for the white student movement in the United States, or what Bloody Sunday was for the African-American civil rights movement in the South. Could you talk about the days leading up to the Chicano moratorium and the impact of the violence that day?
Well, I think the impact really just awakened many people. Up to this point, we were against the war, but you had hope within the society that the society was going to change. I think when the moratorium exploded, it broke that illusion that you had that something would be done to improve society. Before that, we had some major victories. We had started numbers of Mexican Americans going into the schools. We went from about 200 in the city of Los Angeles to about 800. We had for the first time programs like Chicano Studies. We thought we were making some progress. But when the moratorium hit, it was just like a cold water in the face. We woke up, and it was a day that we that went through it will never forget. And I think that today it's becoming a lot larger because an awful lot of youth still remember the moratorium as a time when the government broke faith. And the people of Los Angeles broke faith because, the coverage of the L.A. Times was not good. It was good for about a month, and then it just died out. And then they blamed the victim.
When you say they blamed the victim, what do you mean?
They blamed the Mexican community. They blamed us for what was happening. They blamed us for the subsequent police attacks that happened at other moratoriums that followed that. We then became the culprit. We were the ones that had to keep quiet because we were going to cause riots. Well, the riots were not started by the people. They were started by the police.
Well,
police riots.
Robert Lopez, you were talking about the events that day that led up to the killing of Rubén Salazar. Could you talk about what you discovered in your investigations?
The events regarding Salazar and police? Is that what you're talking about?
Right, and also about the violence that broke out that day at the moratorium.
Well, there was a report that a liquor store was being looted on the far end of Laguna Park, which is now Rubén F. Salazar Park in East Los Angeles. Sheriff's deputies responded, and then tear gas missiles were fired into the crowd, quite a few of them, as a matter of fact. And, there's some historical footage that exists today that just shows the place clouded by gas. And, people started clashing, some of them, and many of them tried to flee. The park was set up in such a way that day that, it was like a funnel. There were entry points that had been blocked by buses and vehicles, and a flatbed truck had been set up as a stage. And it just made it for difficult exit points for the people. And, it was just 30,000 individuals probably. And so it was a very, very bad situation. And ultimately, Whittier Boulevard just exploded into rioting.
And there were 3 people killed that day, including Salazar, and several hundred injured. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe it was Lynn Ward and Angel Diaz, if I recall correctly, who were the other 2 individuals who were killed that day, along with, of course, Rubén Salazar.
There were about 400 arrested, too.
Now, Rodolfo Acuña, were you there that day?
Yeah, I was there that day. I participated in the march, and I was one of the monitors that tried to keep the police out. And for that, I was arrested.
And Felix Gutierrez, again, Rubén Salazar had also been trying to form a national Chicano media association, been elected president of that group only a few months before his death. Could you talk about the impact of his death on sort of the consciousness and the development of other Latino journalists around the country?
Well, we were very much in a tokenism position at that time. There had been some limited hiring of Latinos in broadcasting first and then in the newspapers. But basically it was a one and done kind of a thing. We have our Latino and that's it. We don't need any more. What Rubén was putting together with some other activists, and I think the move to KMEX, he was able to play, because he was news director now, he was able to play more of a leadership role, was putting together a regional organization, not just in California, that would advocate for better coverage and increased employment opportunities for Latinos. I've actually seen his briefcase, or what was put in his briefcase from KMX, and he has the ballots of the election for who would lead this organization. He was running for president, and the votes in there indicate that he would have been the president of this organization. The deadline for the ballots was just before August 29th. So he was moving into a position of greater advocacy and greater influence over journalists and over the media if this had gone through. But he's killed and he's taken from us not only his reporting, not only his, he could talk to both sides, the Spanish language audience and the Anglo audience, but in addition to that, he was building a base, some of which is reflected in the clip that you showed, of taking the media and calling the media to task and saying you need to do a better job. Subsequent, about 2 years later, we formed the California Chicano News Media Association here in Los Angeles in 1972, and then that goes on in 1984 to become the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. So we see an advocacy role playing for racial justice in the media that really he was one of the people who was beginning that, and in which he would have made a major force. Well, if anything, I think it might have happened more quickly if he had not been taken from us.
Felix, I want to turn to another clip from the documentary short, Sin Salazar, that begins with Deputy Sheriff Thomas Wilson, who fired the tear gas canister that struck Rubén Salazar and killed him. He's speaking at the coroner's inquest.
I jumped across the doorway with the weapon at a semi-chest level. I didn't have it at my waist, but I didn't have it up to my arms, at my shoulder. I fired as I went across, aiming in an upward direction.
And apparently the projectile, there's a warning label on it that says don't use it to aim at anybody. It's the kind of thing that you're supposed to hit the floor or hit the ceiling and let it bounce down, but he fired it right in, and it hit Rubén right in the head. That was it.
There were people in 1970, especially politicians and law enforcement, who thought he was a very dangerous man because he had all of this power. And so there was real concern that Rubén was going to get these